In 4 years of studying photography in college, I can't recall learning of a single Indigenous or Native American photographer. In the world of photography, most Indigenous people we encounter are photographed through the lens of white photographers. We can never deeply understand Indigenous perspectives this way, so today I'm going to introduce you to 10 Indigenous photographers you definitely should know about. This is the image that introduced me to Zig Jackson. I was immediately struck by the contrast of cultures. This photo is from his series entitled Indian Man in San Francisco, which he created in the mid-1990s while working to become the first Native American to get an MFA in photography at the San Francisco Art Institute. The series explores Native identity in modern environments. Contemporary clothing with traditional headdress acknowledges a duality he faced. Jackson is of Mandan, Hidatsa, and Arikara descent. He said after leaving the Fort Berthold Indian Reservation in North Dakota, where he was raised, he first picked up a camera while attending high school in Utah. It was there that he states he learned that issues like poverty, alcoholism, and suicide were faced by all Indian people. Before that point, he thought that was unique to his tribe. In 2005, Zig Jackson became the first contemporary Native American photographer to be represented in the collection of the Library of Congress. I also love his series of tourists taking photos of Native Americans. It shows how the colonial gaze extends into modern times. It's poignant, even with humorous titles such as Indian Photographing Tourist, Photographing Indians. Currently, Jackson lives in Georgia, where he teaches photography at the Savannah College of Art and Design. This incredible series, entitled 4 Seasons, is what initially brought my attention to Wendy Red Star's work. In this series, she presents herself in an environment reminiscent of the often inaccurate and offensive dioramas of natural history museums. Wendy Red Star is an Apsaloga photographer born and raised in Billings, Montana. Red Star's art is infused with both a deep love for her culture and a cutting sense of humor. In her series entitled White Squaw, she satirizes adult Western romance novels of the 80s and 90s of the same name. Squaw is an offensive word to Native Americans, and in this project she uses it to highlight obvious racism and sexism that we still see today. Red Star's work often explores issues of identity, representation, and the intersection of traditional Native culture with the contemporary art world. Red Star employs a diverse range of mediums, including photography, sculpture, and performance art, to challenge stereotypes and highlight the richness of Native American experiences. Her work is in many permanent collections, including the Museum of Modern Art, the Metropolitan Museum of Art, the Whitney Museum of American Art, all in New York City, and the Amon Carter Museum of American Art in Fort Worth, Texas. Josué Rivas, a Mexica and Otomi photographer, creates dynamic and challenging imagery of his own while working to raise the profile of an entire community of Indigenous photographers and artists. His stories about Indigenous resistance show us an uncomfortable reality about Indigenous life in the United States. He spent 7 months at Standing Rock, a touchstone event in modern Indigenous culture, where he worked to document the spirit of the people in the camps, instead of focusing more on the conflict and clashes with police at the front lines, like many other photographers did. He also works to support and uplift his community through ventures like Indigenous Photograph, a database of Indigenous photographers, and Indigena, an organization that promotes collaboration between Indigenous creators. There's so much feeling in this image to me. The struggle to physically move the casket combined with the barren trees and seemingly frozen ground, all while dressed up, trying to look presentable, feels symbolic of life and death. Horace Poolaw, born in 1906, was a Kiowa photographer and one of the first Native American professional photographers. Born in Oklahoma, he documented the daily lives, ceremonies, and social gatherings of his community through the mid-20th century. I love this early portrait of his sister from the 1930s. In 1943, he enlisted in the U.S. Army Air Forces and served as an aerial photography instructor in Tampa, Florida. Poolaw's photographs offer a unique perspective on Native American life during a period of significant cultural change. His work has gained recognition posthumously, contributing to a deeper understanding of Native American history and culture. Matika Wilbur is a Swinomish and Tulalip photographer and visual storyteller from the Pacific Northwest. Renowned for her groundbreaking project, Project 562, Wilbur set out to photograph members of all 562 federally recognized Native American tribes in the United States. Through her portraits and storytelling, she aims to challenge stereotypes and present a more accurate and diverse representation of contemporary Native peoples. Wilbur's work contributes significantly to the conversation around Native American identity and visibility in mainstream media. Wilbur has spent more than a decade and traveled 600,000 miles to make this project a reality, releasing her book just this year in 2023. Half Indian, Half Mexican is the title of this image that introduced me to the art of James Luna. It's part of a series he debuted in New York in 1991 titled Take a Picture with the Real Indian, which is exactly what it sounds like. Gallery patrons could stand in line to have their photo taken with Luna wearing traditional Indian garments. James Luna was a contemporary artist and photographer of Puyo Quechua and Mexican heritage. Known for his groundbreaking performance art and visual installation, Luna's work often challenged stereotypes and explored issues of identity, culture, and the impact of colonization on Native communities. Throughout his career, Luna exhibited internationally, gaining recognition for his thought-provoking and evocative contributions to the contemporary art scene. His legacy continues to influence discussions on Native American representation in the arts. Luna is best known for his performance called Artifact Piece. First staged in 1987 at the Museum of Man in San Diego, Luna wore a loincloth and laid motionless as if on display. He was surrounded by personal objects like his college degree, his Motown record collection, and divorce papers. Callie Spitzer is a contemporary Canadian photographer with both Cascadena and Jewish heritage. Specializing in portraiture, Spitzer's work often explores themes of identity, cultural resilience, and the intersection of Indigenous traditions with the contemporary world. Her art reflects a commitment to preserving and celebrating Indigenous cultures, capturing the beauty and strength of her subjects. Spitzer's photographs have been exhibited nationally and internationally, contributing to a more nuanced understanding of Indigenous experiences through the lens of her distinctive perspective. By documenting BIPOC and queer communities, using a combination of film and the wet plate collodion process, her work feels both modern and nostalgic. American photographer Cara Romero is an enrolled citizen of the Chemehuevi Indian tribe. Known for her powerful and visually striking images, Romero's work often explores issues related to Native American identity, environmental justice, and the intersection of traditional culture with the modern world. She states that, quote, "As an Indigenous photographer, I embrace photography as my tool to resist Eurocentric narratives and as a means for opening audiences' perspectives to the fascinating diversity of living Indigenous peoples. And my style offers viewers sometimes serious and sometimes playful social commentary on pressing issues like the border wall, the hypersexualization of Native women in histories of photography, environmental destruction of Native lands, and stereotypes of indigeneity in pop culture." Her work can be vibrant and brightly colored or monochromatic and meditative, but with either approach, it's always creating a mood that inspires introspection while bringing out the depths of her subjects. Brian Adams is an Inupiaq photographer based in Anchorage, Alaska. Adams' work appears in National Geographic, documenting life in Inuit communities. His photos are empathetic and intimate, documenting Indigenous life in his own community with the depth that only an insider can provide. He takes us from sweeping and magnificent vistas into the homes of the community and the intimate moments of everyday life. His photos show pride and joy and strength, a love for culture and community. And in areas where outsiders might expect to be snowy and monochromatic, Adams provides rich color and tones. Jaida Gray Eagle is an Oglala Lakota documentary photographer in St. Paul, Minnesota. Gray Eagle reports regularly for Sahan Journal, a news site in Minnesota that focuses on immigrant communities. Her work has also been published in the New York Times and Vogue. She documented the civil unrest following the murder of George Floyd in Minneapolis in 2020 and its effect on Indigenous communities. The documentary nature of Jaida Gray Eagle's photography allows us to spend time with the people she photographs, getting to know them on what feels like a deeper level. I think there's a misperception that any historical artist worth knowing about is already known. The cream rises to the top. But this is wrong for so many reasons. Many photographers came from upper middle class or wealthy backgrounds. They had more means and connections to get their work noticed. And who were the arbiters of taste that decided who was published in magazines or hung in museums? Obviously, the vast majority of them were white men. Even if an editor or curator was socially progressive, they were judging art from their own aesthetic sensibilities, which means what they liked often didn't take into consideration the aesthetics of other cultures. And so why is this white guy talking to you about Indigenous photographers? I don't purport to be an expert on the topic, but I do know a lot about photography, and I wanted to know more about Indigenous photographers, so I took some time, did some research, and I wanted to share it with you. And this is by no means comprehensive. It's just meant to be an introduction to the work of some Indigenous photographers, past and present, so you can begin to see a different perspective on their lives, their perspective. Learn their names, follow them on social media, go to exhibits in your city. When you're primarily familiar with the white perspective on Native cultures, viewing the work of these amazing photographers will surely open your heart and mind. Thank you so much for watching. If there are any other Indigenous photographers that you want to name drop in the comments, please do so. I'd love to learn more about who are your favorites.